Hello, everybody. Welcome to On the Homefront. My name is John Murphy. Very happy to share some life with you on the radio. You might be catching us live on WILI here at AM 1400 in our studio, or 95.3 on the FM. We're also on YouTube. On the WILI channel, all of our afternoon shows have their own playlists, so you can get these programs anytime. And it's a way for our guests to have more ways to connect to you beyond just a live broadcast that we're happy to do here on Wednesdays. Got another busy show today. We're going to have an update from the Cargill Mills Tenant Union. As you know, we've been covering them since the fall. They're having lots of issues with lead toxic poisoning in the building and the failure of local government and health department to manage the problem with the developers. It's a development project that turned sour, and it's been a real nightmare for the tenants. We're going to have an update today with Katy Slininger. And at the end of the show, we're going to talk with the Owsley Stanley Foundation. Owsley Stanley was a wonderful audio engineer working with the Grateful Dead and the whole San Francisco music scene. He passed away, of course, but he left behind over 1,500 hours of audio recorded in a very unusual technique to give extreme stereo identification for audio files. They have a whole archive of recordings coming out. There's a new one right now that came out just a couple of weeks ago. So we're going to talk to somebody from the foundation as part of a series looking at all this music that's been sitting there. They're restoring it and putting it back out for us to enjoy. So we'll do that during the show. Right now, I'm very happy to focus on the Community Foundation for Eastern Connecticut. They've been here for 40 years, and they're here today to announce some recent grant awards and give a little background on the work they do. We have Deb Battit sitting next to me. I'm sorry, it's Deb Battit. She's the program officer at the foundation. And sitting next to Deb is Carol Wiliams. She is a trustee of the foundation. She's been with the organization now for 25 years. And I'm very happy to have Carol back in the studio because she and I go back many, many years when she was working. And she used to talk about the work of the Women and Girls Fund back then. And here she is many years later, back in the house, Carol.
Right. Good to be here, John.
Yes, so we'll talk about that fund as well. So, Deb, maybe you could give us a little overview of the foundation and what it's trying to do in our region, and then we'll get into some of the grant awards. Huh?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the Community Foundation started out in New London back in 1983.
Right.
There were other kind of iterations of little community foundations. A community foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit. It's a collection of funds that are invested for the benefit of a community. Mm-hmm. And in 2009, the merger happened when the foundation that covered this area, which was called the Community Foundation of the Tri-County Area, so
right.
Windham, Norwich, kind of the northeastern part of Windham County, merged into what was the Community Foundation of Southeastern Connecticut to become the Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut. So we now cover all of Windham County, the 6 Tolland counties on this edge, the 6 towns rather on this edge of Tolland County,
right.
and also all of New London County.
Right.
Because the foundation has its roots in New London and in the southeastern part of the state, there simply are more funds that are bigger because they've been around longer there. However, we're delighted at the progress that we're making up in this region. I looked through our old annual reports to kind of get an idea of what the Community Foundation of the Tri-County area is bringing to this new community foundation, and they had about almost $1.5 million in assets, and for example, 6 scholarship funds and some other funds, but understandably it was small. And today, the Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut has over $120 million in assets. We have a total of over 130 scholarship funds alone, and there are lots and lots of other funds we have for grants that we'll talk about in a moment. But we're delighted at the growth of the funds and the growth of grant making to support this and communities up in this part of the region. So that's what we're excited to talk about today.
And, you know, we're very happy to have our area foundations on because they're part of what the safety net is. When the other larger established institutions have their priorities and their struggles, life goes on and the gaps remain. And these foundations provide vital things. A small grant can be life or death to a group. So it's not the amount of money, it's the idea that it's there. And you make your case and you see what you can do each year. They have cycles. We'll talk about that later. But just go to the website, too, when you chat today with us, cfect.org. It's got lots of information to follow up on this. Carol, maybe you can add your thoughts, since you've been involved for so many years now, how the foundation has grown and what the needs are that have always been there, and maybe things that have changed that you've noticed.
Okay. As you said, I've been involved for over 25 years with the foundations here locally. And I think we're part of a movement to form community foundations. There was a point in time where people like myself who wanted to see where their charitable dollars were going,
right,
and what the needs were and how we could help address them. And it's funny, the way I got involved, I got a letter in the mail, and it was saying, be part of this committee and hand out grants to local nonprofits. And it listed on the side the people who were part of that committee. It was every woman that I really admired in this region.
Wow,
and I said, wow, okay, all I have to do is get together, have lunch, give away money, I'm in. I didn't realize we had to help raise money at the time, but that's kind of fun too. But I would say, in response to your question about broadening the scope, the thing that I'm most excited about with the foundation, in addition to the many grants that Deb's going to tell you about, we are now trying to address some of those basic inequalities in the state of Connecticut. And so we've taken a broader picture. Like today, I testified as a trustee of the foundation about the permanent child tax credit in Connecticut. We're pushing that would be one way to start to eradicate poverty and make Connecticut more equitable and just.
And that would insulate Connecticut from the federal confusion and shifting that they do periodically. You would have it as your own state support all the time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so it's very exciting, and it continues to evolve.
Right.
And that's the beauty of a community foundation, really, is that it exists in perpetuity forever to support the communities as they grow and change over time. And so we're fortunate to have a growing number of funds that care about either children or animals or certain communities or libraries that will help them no matter what happens.
That's the thing. These dollars are endowed, and so it kicks off interest. And so these funds, the Community Foundation idea was have endowed funds that in perpetuity give
real stability.
Yes, that's really the goal. So that, as they say, the people who sit under the trees that we plant as acorns now will benefit from these. So it's that's, I think, the beauty of this kind of community philanthropy. And people care about different things. People love the town that they grew up in, or they have a passion for the arts, or they got a leg up going to college, and so they want to help someone else get a leg up to go to college.
That's right.
And so there's really something for everyone. Now, the Community Foundation does have some priorities in our work now. So we really do care about people who've kind of historically been left out, been pushed to the edges, particularly people of color and people who again have not had the loud voices, the powerful voices, and kind of always had to go their way. And so we our grant making is broad, but we certainly have a focus on issues of poverty, on youth empowerment, because we want every kid to be able to grow up healthy and happy. I mean, who doesn't want that for any child anywhere, right? We care about things like health, emotional health, physical, mental health. We know that's a big issue in this region.
High stress times.
Yes, yes. And we're fortunate, too, that we've had a couple of donors who made large gifts when in their will. So after they left us, they left behind the ability to make grants to support the environment. So we, for example, have been supporting Connecticut Forest and Parks Association to get students from Wyndham Middle School out to Hampton, to Goodwin State Forest, and kind of feel nature, learn what wood really can do and what it looks like in its natural state, as well as lots of other things. So the grants we'd love to share with you today are fairly recent. We had
let me do something here before we go on. In case you've just joined us on radio today, we're talking about the Community Foundation for Eastern Connecticut, and the guests today are Deb Battit and Carol Wiliams. We're talking about the purpose. This is our first visit today with Deb, and we'll have the foundation back periodically throughout the year based on their grant deadlines to give you a heads up. But go to the website. Anything that they're talking about today is there. And the time that we have left, about 5 minutes, I want to let Deb and Carol share the awards that they have made, so you know how this money is being used here in our local areas. So take it away. Let's share the good news.
Okay, so
Yeah.
in the very end of 2023, we were delighted to make $60,000 through the Wyndham Women and Girls Fund to agencies that help women and children and families all over this region,
Yeah.
like WAME, for example.
Yeah.
Like
Wyndham Area Interfaith Ministry. Carol's
Yes.
been with the Women and Girls Fund for forever.
like even to the Wyndham 4-H to help girls be able to afford to go to summer camp, to
Yeah.
day camp or a little sleepaway camp,
Yeah.
to the Girl Scouts for starter troops to kind of help communities that maybe haven't had a lot of it lately, kind of rebuild, kind of help the adults learn how to be leaders and kind of get going again, because Girl Scouts do amazing things for girls.
Oh, yeah, and COVID really hit scouting hard.
It hit a
did.
lot of nonprofits
Really
hard.
shut them down. So this
So,
is good.
and then programs that help women who have been victims of domestic violence, and programs that work to empower women that are justice focused. So we are delighted around that, and our Northeast Women and Girls Fund. So kind of they share this area. Sort of Wyndham County gets split, and the Tullen towns kind of get added in. It's just how we do it. But they were able to make another $25,000 in grants to support similar kinds of things, helping girls go to camp, helping a program for working mothers to be able to afford the after-school program in Putnam so that the kids could go to school and the mothers could go to work and not worry about
it's
the kids.
so critical today.
Little
That's a crisis.
things.
Yeah.
That's
Big time.
Yes, there's a program up in, I think she's based in Putnam, that is called Northeast Opportunities for Wellness, and works with kids on health, sports, feeling good about themselves, developing kind of a positive sense of themselves in a bunch of different ways. And they work with a lot of like tweens who are at that stage. They do great work. So together, we got to put $85,000 into this region to support women and girls and families, which we think is wonderful. And, go ahead.
Okay, and before we go, I want to also cover the Basic Needs Awards. That was a very recent program, and that's really going to be homegrown right here in the Willimantic area.
Yes,
Please.
and this is fresh off the presses. The grantees, the applicants have all just been notified within the past couple of days.
Excellent.
And we were able to make almost $36,000 in basic needs grants that serve Wyndham residents.
So great.
The source of the funds, it's a long story, but essentially they're obligated to serve residents of this town. So as much as we love to help everyone,
Yeah.
we have to follow the donor's intent. And if the donor wanted the funds to
Yeah.
stay here, that's what they do. So this included things like Holy Family Home and Shelter, Covenant Soup Kitchen, the No Freeze Project, and also an exciting new project, well, new for us, with the Wyndham Human Services Department that will help them do direct kind of emergency needs for residents who go to them with particular needs, maybe for rent or for a bus pass or whatever it might be. So
There's more people that are having emergency needs today.
yes,
That's
and,
right.
and so a lot of these were to help folks who are just one minor disaster away from a major disaster.
Sure.
You know, whether it be a small car repair or getting behind on rent or a bill that.
A health problem.
Yep,
Anything.
lots of things can derail people. So that's very exciting. That's again new as of 2 days ago, and so we have kind of finished our big grant cycles for this region for now. We do a little bit of small grants, but they're so small that we don't even have an official cycle because we don't want people to go through all the work of an application
Right.
for like $500.
Yeah, so
but-
the fall gets more active again with
Yes,
applications.
yes. Now, if I may, I also would love
Yep.
to share a little bit about our scholarships program that has grown over the years and now does have quite a nice array of scholarship funds to serve students in this region. Last year, we made about $170,000 in scholarship awards to about 42 students. We have one particularly large scholarship fund for students interested in nursing. But there are some others, and they're growing.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to be able to help students from across the region afford college because we know it's
Oh, yeah.
expensive.
And I know you mentioned healthcare, but Eastern has a new nursing program there that's meeting a huge need.
Yes.
And people are looking everywhere. So if you're planning ahead for school,
Yes.
you never know unless you ask. You don't know.
That's right.
But there are options out there. CFECT.org is the website to follow up on all these programs.
Yes, and if I may,
yes, one
the
last
scholarship application,
Yes.
you fill out one.
Yeah.
So you don't have to apply to 40 different scholarships. You apply through one general application, and we have this fancy software that kind of helps us
Wow.
figure out who's
Yeah.
eligible, and then
That's too
committees
simple.
look
Those
at-
are open now, aren't
It's
they?
supposed to be
Now's the
complicated
time.
like a FAFSA
Oh, it's still
nightmare.
it is still complicated. But
One time.
what's helpful is that for an applicant, they can fill out one form and be eligible, be considered for whatever they may be eligible for.
So one thing I should clarify before we go is for the scholarship program, when should the applications be in?
Well, we moved our deadline back a little this year, May 1st, because of all the
Okay.
hiccups with the federal FAFSA. It's normally a bit earlier, but all that information is on our website. Again, there's a scholarships section of the website, very easy to get to. There's a button for a scholarships portal where someone just clicks and sets themselves up, and off they go. And if they have any questions, they can contact us.
Well, this is really great work, and I'm happy you're here today, and we'll have you back periodically during the year as news is needed.
Wonderful.
This is Deb Battit. She's Program Officer at the Community Foundation for Northeast Connecticut, as well as Carol Wiliams. So thank you both for your good work throughout the year. We wish you a great season, and we'll have you back.
Thanks
so
very
much,
much.
John.
Okay, we're going to take a short break and come back and talk about the Cargill Mills Tenant Union in Putnam. Don't go away. Okay, we're back live here on the Homefront. Very happy to have you with us here live on the radio. You might have us on YouTube. If you go to the WILI Radio YouTube channel, all of our shows are posted there with playlists. And also, I'm very happy to have a phone call right now with Hawk from the Owsley Stanley Foundation. This is our third conversation, and I'm so happy with the work they're doing to preserve the work of Owsley Stanley, affectionately known as Bear. And this is what I'm holding right now is their latest release. It's called Sing Out. And these are recordings from 1981. And this is part of a series of recordings. They have over 1,300 recordings they're trying to preserve that Owsley made in the 60s, 70s, and 80s with musicians from all genres. So first of all, Hawk, welcome back to the airwaves here. It's nice to have you here in radio space again.
Thank you, John. It's great to be back on.
So maybe you could briefly talk about the foundation, and you've been doing this for years to save this music, and I know in the terms of physical preservation, time does run out on the analog tape world. Can you talk about that and what you're trying to do while you can still access these recordings?
Sure. Yeah, we are a nonprofit organization, all volunteer, dedicated to preserving Owsley's legendary archive of tapes. And these are tapes that he made primarily when he was sound man for the Grateful Dead. He was the Grateful Dead's first sound man.
That's right.
And he recorded every artist that played on a stage that he built, and he called them his sonic journals. And they were like his diary to track his performance as the sound man, so that he would try to listen back and see what he did right, what he did wrong with respect to a given venue. We have 1,300 of these reels. They're all reel-to-reel recordings. And before he died, he said to his family, please try to preserve my tapes for history. I think they have some historical significance. And when he passed away, we set about forming the foundation and have been preserving these 1,300 reels for about 10 years now. We've got about 200 reels to go. We've discovered about 80 different artists, and we learned fairly early on in the process that if we released some of the gems of the archive that we came across during the preservation process, that could in part help to fund the preservation mission. And so that's where we are. Sing Out is our most recent production, OSF number 10.
Well, this is kind of musical archaeology in my mind, because you're talking recordings you have with Miles Davis. You mentioned Johnny Cash, the Grateful Dead, of course, Jefferson Airplane, Fleetwood Mac, Janis Joplin, many, many others as well. And this history is still available. Fans will support this if they know about it, because it's a real treat to hear what Owsley did with audio. He was such an expert technician of acoustics and sound, and his microphone technique was quite legendary, because it's not just your typical headphone stereo left and right. So without losing us in all the engineering, could you talk about why these recordings are so unique and how people can reproduce his sound if they put their speakers together in the middle of the room, not left and right far apart?
Well, actually, to be fair, it does relate to a certain period of time. For example, the Johnny Cash recordings from '68, where he was experimenting with the way he was to get the playback. It creates this split channel sound.
Right.
But in general, his approach to single point systems was based on the idea of not wanting to overload any given speaker with overlapping information. So that when you think about the wall of sound and you've got, an entire stack basically for every string on Phil's bass.
Oh, yeah.
The idea is to create as clean a sound as possible. And then with a single point, you convey the same sound to every seat in the auditorium with the same strength and fidelity. And so, it would, Deadheads in the 80s and 90s, we're used to the fill zone on the left side of the stage, on the ground, basically, where you get that heavy resonating bass. Bear would have wanted you to get that bass in every seat in the house, perfectly mixed with the rest of the instruments. And that comes into play in this recording because, this was a Save a Benefit concert, and everybody was volunteering their time, and Bear was asked to mix sound for this. And he showed up at a venue that he knew very well, the Berkeley Community Theater. He likened it to trying to mix music inside a garbage can. The sound was very difficult in that hall.
Very live, shall we say, yeah.
Yeah. And so he shows up, characteristically a little bit late, and the stage is already set up, and it's set up with stacks on the left and right, which was conventional at the time and still is. And he said, no, I know this venue. If you're playing acoustic music here, this is not the right setup for this. Let's take this stack and move it over to the other side of the stage so we have a single point system. And the guy who donated all of the speakers had a similar strong opinion to the contrary. And it was not about to tear down and move it as Bear requested. So Bear surreptitiously disconnected half of the system.
Yep.
And they came running over and complained that, it's not working. We got to fix this. And he said, relax. Don't worry about it. I got it. I'll mix it. It'll be perfectly fine.
Yeah, I'll
and
fix it in post.
And then at the end of the show,
yeah.
What's that?
I said I'll fix it in post, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we'll fix it in post. Sure. So then he after the show ends, when they're right before teardown, he again quietly reconnects the system, and they come over all in a lather, and he says, I don't know, it's working now. But he loved to tell that story for the reason that you sort of alluded to. It validated a lot of his theories about single-point systems, and the sound was exquisite that night. So exquisite that Odetta actually referenced it from the stage. She said, I love how it sounds in here tonight.
Right.
He got really, really exquisite sound out of a venue that had kind of beaten him in the past.
Well, that's what happens when you think like a microphone and you paint a picture. You paint a picture with sound as if you're there, and it's not artificially mixed, because I know there's no equalization. He didn't like EQ, and he didn't like close miking, right? It was more the ambient sound as if you were with the musicians on stage.
Yeah, exactly. And he referred to it as constructive bleed, having the microphones just enough apart so that there would be some overlapping information that would be appropriate to where the musicians were on the stage, and to try to capture the stage soundscape as accurately as he could. And that's
right.
That's part of what makes his tapes so clean and so magical, and makes you feel like you're in the room. You can feel the room on the night of his recording.
This is all true, folks. I have a few of these recordings now, and when you listen, you can really hear the difference, and it's a remarkable way to look at audio and sound in a very personal way. I want to mention some of these tracks, too, because these are artists that you all know and love. I played Johnny Cash at the Carousel Ballroom. That was 1968, San Francisco. Then we had Tim Buckley in the Carousel the same year. That was around the time of his Hello, Goodbye record. That was a wonderful record he put out with Buzz and Fly, and some other tracks with Tim Buckley. And then you have a lot of world music people are connecting to. Ali Akbar Khan. Then you have the New Riders of the Purple Sage, Commander Cody, New Riders. What's the website where people can go to follow up on our chat today and learn about this music and try to support it?
Sure. Our website is owsleystanleyfoundation.org, OWSLEY, STANLEY foundation.org. We've got a store there. We've got landing pages for each one of the releases to sort of talk about what's special about each one and give you a little bit of background about Owsley if you're not familiar with Owsley, or the Bears, we call them.
That's right.
Yeah, and then we also have a Facebook page. That's where we sort of publish our more dynamic day-to-day activities. If patrons sponsor a reel, we'll post pictures of the reels and any notes on the box and describe what we found on it when we preserved it.
Sure. Now, you mentioned, Hawk, about 200 recordings to go. Is that correct currently? Is that your current count?
Yeah, it's actually, we were using old inventory lists. We've got 4 sets of inventory lists of various vintages, and tapes get moved around over time, moved from box to box. And as we get down to the last lap, we've actually discovered that there are probably close to 200 additional tapes, more than what we tallied on the initial inventory list. So this is a good problem to have.
Sure.
It means that as we hit the last lap, we're also continuing to discover gems that we didn't expect to find.
Yeah. No, I really commend you for the love that this is for the music, because he loved the music enough to do it his way, and you're keeping those tapes alive. One question I was always wondering, how do you deal with copyright when you're talking about music from heavy hitters in their prime in many cases? So how have you had support when the record labels are kind of getting out of your way for once?
Well, that's a complicated question, and I will say that where I like to start is that we have a moral, ethical principle that we'd never release any music without 100% buy-in from the artist,
right,
or their estate. So even if we had legal rights, we don't even discuss sort of the legal aspects of it. We're more focused on if the artist wants it to come out, it's incumbent on us to find a way to try to work with various parties that have interest and try to release it to satisfy the artist and to get the music to the fans. We believe these are historically important. That doesn't always mean that other people share that view. And we do everything that we can as volunteers within sort of our framework to move these projects forward. Sometimes it's instant. Sometimes it takes years.
Yeah.
And so and people always ask us, well, what's next? And we're working on about probably 10 to 15 projects at any given time in various stages of completion. But we never can tell until that final agreement is signed and everybody's on board, which one's going to necessarily percolate to the top. That said, in our narrative arc of releases, it's probably obvious that we're trying to convey the diversity of artists from release to release and the various idioms or genres of music that Bear recorded. We're all Deadheads. We love the Grateful Dead, and Rhino's doing a great job releasing Bear's recordings on their label through Dave's Picks and their box sets each year. But we're focused a lot on the other artists that were in Bear's ambit, and it's not always psychedelic music all the time. It's not always Jefferson Airplane, Big Brother, Quicksilver. And it was these surprises like the Chieftains on their first U.S. tour. This night with Ali Akbar Khan that was billed as Raga Round the Clock at the Family Dog. That happened to be a weekend when the Grateful Dead were on their first trip to London, and Bear couldn't leave California because of the drug bust, famously in New Orleans.
Right.
So he found himself at the Family Dog, and we have this amazing tape that was a tremendous discovery.
Now, also, speaking of discoveries, I think one of your largest collections is 7 CDs with some real Americana roots of Merle and Doc Watson. Talk about some godfathers of picking. How did you end up with 7 CDs? That's a stash.
Well, that's the title of it is Never the Same Way Once. And that title came from T. Michael Coleman, who was Doc Watson's bass player. And by the way, this was our flagship release. So this was our very first effort. And we asked T. Michael, will people be upset if there's some songs that overlap? Because we have 4 nights. Each night is different. The sound in the hallway, you can hear it's different each night. Bear makes adjustments each night. The playing is different each night.
Sure.
The environment is different each night. Will people be upset if there's some tracks that are, repeated? And he said, well, shoot, we never played the same way once. They'll love it. And so we released the whole box set, all 4 shows, 94 tracks. And Stereophile magazine, when it was released, said that it was they said Doc Watson never made a bad recording. This may be the most extraordinary Doc Watson recording ever, period, italics, ever, period.
Wow, that's a big thumbs up. That's a big thumbs up. Yeah, but that's like jazz improvisation. It's never the same way twice. And, I think recently you put out the 3 CDs of the entire Allman Brothers thing at the Fillmore East. So, you hear different things of Statesboro Blues. They're classic tunes, but each night is a different jam. It's all interesting stuff that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, one of the amazing things about that release are the 3 versions of In Memory of Elizabeth Reed,
Right.
which was a brand new song. It was only a couple weeks old at that time, and it's the earliest known live recording of that song. And it's amazing to watch its evolution just across those 3 nights.
That's true. Plus, you get to hear Owsley at the controls with the microphones, so you get that extra treat as well, it's audible. You can hear it, folks. If you pay attention, it's there. It's like colors are there. Well, Hawk, I want to thank you very much for joining us today. I want to stay in touch with you for more conversations as this great work continues, and we'll get this on the air once in a while to let people know about the Owsley Stanley Foundation and how to connect to your work and support it and get some of this great music as you continue the good work.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, John. We really appreciate your helping us spread the word.
You bet. Very happy to do so. I wish you well, and we'll talk again. Take care.
Till next time. Thank you, John.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. As Rahsaan Roland Kirk would say, stay on the case. That's what he used to say, stay on the case. And that's about it now. I'm getting the thumbs up to wrap up this week. Thank you very much for sharing some time today on the Homefront. We'll see you next week. If you want to get involved, John at humanartsmedia.com. Don't be shy. See you next time.